Good morning, gents, and welcome to day 2 of our paper 1 revision. Today I'll be looking at question 4, which is an aspect of visual literacy called cartoons. Let's jump straight into it. In terms of the resources that you'll need today, your PDF copy of a survival guide to English is still essential. Then I've also sent you a PDF copy of the figures of speech cheat sheet, which is not a piece of paper which you can take into the exam, unfortunately, but it's a quick 2-pager that I give to my classes to help them ensure that they know their poetic or literary devices. Of course, figures of speech are also really important when we are doing paper 1 because cartoons and adverts contain figures of speech just like a poem would, because figures of speech use relatively few words to get a relatively impactful message across. And then finally, you need your past papers. 3 per paper, right? That's how many we aim to practice. But today we're going to focus on the November 2024 paper 1, question 4. Please have your hard copy at your disposal. In as much as I've tried to make the images big on the screen, sometimes it is a little easier if you can view it on the piece of paper in front of you. All right, so let's get the basics mastered for today. Writing an exam paper is actually a very strategic thing. And you will remember that yesterday I mentioned that I want you to start your paper 1 at the back, so that you're essentially moving from the known to the unknown, and that you're starting with the parts of the paper where you're likely to score more marks. Okay? So when we're approaching any exam paper, there's a key question that we need to ask ourselves. And that key question is the question that I'm about to answer text rich or text poor? Rich obviously means a lot of, and poor means a little bit of. So when something is text rich, it means that there's a lot of writing, like the comprehension, and when it's text poor, there's only a little bit of writing, and you're mainly working with pictures. I'm sure you'll agree with me that you've been looking at pictures since you were maybe a year old. And so pictures are easier to analyze than words. Pictures also don't rely on us knowing a specific language to be able to answer the question. All right? So with cartoons, they are text poor. And when something is text poor, we don't worry about the questions. We actually work on analyzing the text first. All right? And years of research, and I need you to trust me on this. You can ask one of the boys in my class to explain it to you. But years of research have taught me that when we are analyzing a text, when we're looking at that cartoon, before we go ahead and answer the questions, the first thing that we need to do is peel the onion. All right? Now, what does it mean to peel the onion? It means to go here to the onion and start on these outside layers that are quite easy to pull off. And then once we've got the outside layers under control, then we move in towards the more difficult, juicy details, those ones that sometimes make us cry because they're so difficult. Did you see my metaphor there? Literally, an onion is juicy in the inside, but figuratively, things make us cry when they are difficult. All right, just like the onion literally makes you cry because it smells sharp, aspects of a cartoon that are difficult might figuratively make us cry sometimes. Just some quick revision of your figures of speech. All right, so let's not lose focus. When we are analyzing a text, we peel the onion. We start on the outside with the easy things, the layout, the pictures. Then we move to the people, the interactions between the people. And finally, we go to those more difficult, juicy layers, our words or the purpose of the text. And we try and work out the complicated things, like, for example, why the cartoon is funny. Okay. And it's only once we completely understand our picture, gents, that we go and tackle the questions. Okay? And we'll talk later in the lesson about question analysis, but let's look at the picture first. All right. We're a third of the way through the 15 minutes I need from you today, and we're going to have a look at cartoon theory, and you're going to see that there are a lot of difficult buzzwords. Now, if these buzzwords are unfamiliar to you, gents, please pop me a WhatsApp message so that I can send you some theory notes on these buzzwords. But I'm actually here to do something very easy. I'm here to go through this process called peeling the onion with you. All right, so when we peel the onion in a cartoon, we start with the outside and we have a look at the frame, all right? And this cartoon, for ease sake, is only one frame, all right? So we look at our one frame and we see that the setting, the place in which this cartoon is taking place, is actually a classroom. Look there are lots of children, all right? And there are some desks, and we're inside one building. Look at the venues. Now remember, gents, to be specific. Don't tell me that we're at a school. We're not at a school. We're in a classroom. Be as specific as you can. Now they want us to peel the onion, and so the next really important aspect of a cartoon, if we look at buzzwords, is body language. All right? And body language actually literally speaks about the character's body. So if you look at the character I've just highlighted in green there, what is the character's body language? The character is lying on their arms, okay? And there I've disappeared from my frame because I'm lying on my arms. Okay, what does that body language mean? That body language means that the character is bored of the lesson and they don't want to be in this class. And you'll see there are various other kinds of body language in this cartoon that show us the characters are bored. There are people who are lying on their arms, there are people who are looking downward, there are all sorts of different body languages that show us that these students are bored. Outside of the picture frame, you'll even see outside of the glasses frame, going green now, you'll see that there's a guy here who is literally falling asleep while scratching his head. Do you notice that when I talk about body language, first I talk about the actual movement that the character is making, and then I dig deeper and I start linking it to feelings and attitudes. So often you guys miss the body language mark because you go straight to attitude or feeling. If I keep peeling the onion, I can look closely at some of these characters' facial expressions. I can see that there are lots of downturned mouths. I can see that there are eyes that are closed. I can see that there are eyebrows that are frowning, and all of those things help to show me that the mood in the room is very, for lack of a better word, low. Okay? The energy levels are low. The mood in the room is tired, melancholic, depressive. Nobody in this room wants to learn. Then if I look at my character interactions, there's something very specific I want you to notice here. Yes, the characters in the room aren't really interacting with each other. But do you see these glasses in the frame? Who do you think that these glasses would symbolically represent? Let's have a look. These glasses in the frame, I'm trying to draw a circle around them unsuccessfully. These glasses in the frame show us that this advert is written from a particular, this cartoon, is written from a particular perspective. Stereotypically, who in the classroom wears glasses and who in the classroom stands at the front? Yes, you are correct. It's the teacher, okay? So the stereotype here is that the glasses are being used to have a closer look. And the teacher is actually discovering something very negative. The teacher is discovering that their learners aren't really interested in them. So there are visual clues, pictures in this cartoon that show us that the teacher is discovering that their students are actually bored. And I suppose that's the main meaning or purpose behind the cartoon. This teacher needs a wake-up call. Their learners are bored and they need to re-strategize. You'll see on my buzzwords list that the next word is verbal, okay? And verbal clues, gents, are those things that are written inside the speech bubble in a cartoon. So most cartoons have something that looks like this that has writing inside. And that writing inside is a verbal clue. And that's where we start looking at the words. And we actually now look at the deepest layer of the onion, the figures of speech, the punctuation, the language that can help us understand what is going on in this cartoon. Can you make a caption for this cartoon? My caption would be reality check. I need to move to the next slide so that you guys don't fall asleep. We're on 10 minutes and 41 seconds. So in 4.5 minutes, I'm going to lose some of you and you're going to log off for the day. So before I get to practicing the past paper, I want to go through one more essential piece of theory for the day. I want to have a look at the concepts of tone and mood. All right, so it's section 11 in your survival guide to paper 1, and that's the one thing I really want you to go and study today. Now, guys, tone and mood both have to do with the feeling in a particular piece, a cartoon, an advert, a poem. It links to many different questions we're going to answer over the next few days, but tone relates to feeling, okay? So in the purest form, tone is feeling. What is the tone of the cartoon? How are the people in the cartoon feeling? What is their attitude? I need a feeling word, all right? Whereas mood is a little more nuanced, and mood can relate more to the atmosphere, to the overall feeling in the room, okay? To the setting, the feeling of the setting. So go and study those notes of tone and mood a little more closely. But what I want to tell you guys is this is an area where you can really up your game. So often there are very few words that you use to describe tone or feeling. You gents like to tell me happy or sad or angry or sarcastic or shocked. Happy, sad, angry, sarcastic, shocked. Those are the most common tone words that I see in papers when I am marking. Guys, it's simply not enough. Happy and sad last earned you a mark when you were in grade 9. What kind of happy? There are different things that make us happy. I can feel happy that I am helping you pass matric, and then I'd be feeling benevolent because I'm giving of my skills to you. You can feel happy because while you're listening to this lesson, your girlfriend or boyfriend is popping into your DMs and you're starting to feel quite romantic about the thing that's bringing your heart joy. You can feel happy because you're excited or exuberant because you scored 100 runs at Cape Schools today and you're on your way to becoming the next cricket sensation at Queen's College. You can feel happy because you're so calm and you're on holiday and you're feeling whimsical. Do you see, gents, that tone words really, really, really vary, and you need to make a study of them? If you haven't picked up these words over the last 12 or so years of reading for 20 minutes every day, you can actually commit yourself to learning different tone words, all right? What you can do is you can visit these tone tables in the survival guide, and you can make sure you know what these different words mean. If you even just learn a quarter of these words, you'll be well on your way to earning marks at the end of the year. And you'll see there's a table for positive, there's a table for negative, there's a table for neutral, there's a table for sarcastic. All of the main emotions that you guys tell me about, but fancier words. So what I would try and do is I would try and identify 5 meanings, 5 words that I know the meaning of, and I'd explain them to myself. And then I'd try and look at 10 words that I do not know the meaning of. And I'd literally do like a Mr. Charasika grade 10 level spelling and vocab test where I go and look those words up in the dictionary. Or take a shortcut and look them up on Google or in AI in an app. But get to know 10 tone words out of each table that you never knew in the past. And that's really, really going to help you to be able to earn those low-hanging fruit marks for tone. All right. All right, gents. Let's sit back, let's relax, and let's be those students who give more than 15 minutes. What I'd like us to do right now is I'd like us to turn to question 4 of the November 2025 paper, and I would like us to peel the onion. Just excuse me while I get my exam paper up on my phone. It's a little difficult to view this on the screen. So if we have a look at this cartoon and we start to peel the onion, you will see immediately that there isn't a very specific setting. There are 10 frames and the setting is quite bland. We're not quite sure where people are, but there is a side note at the bottom that says that the young girl's name is Elizabeth and the other characters are a young boy, her mother, and her father. And the young boy, it tells us in brackets or parenthesis, is a friend of hers. So we see, okay, not a specific setting, but specific relationships. Friend, mom, dad. Now, if we look at Elizabeth and the friend, and we peel the onion, and we start looking for more specific character clues, we'll see that they're surrounded by hearts. Do you see they're like letter-looking things there that the boy and the girl are holding, and they have hearts, and the boy is smiling. But if we look at the girl, her mouth is downturned, for lack of a better word, a bit shocked. She seems disappointed by something. Then in frames 3 to 6, she's not with her friend anymore. She's with a taller woman. Now we've been told the taller woman is her mom. And her mom are having a heart-to-heart. How do I know they're having a heart-to-heart? It's not because of the heart letter. It's because of the fact that mom has a pot in front of her. She's cooking. And mothers and daughter relationships, stereotypes, we speak to our moms when they're cooking. That's why I like to reply to your guys' WhatsApps when you send me questions about your past papers you've been doing while I'm cooking at night, because it means it's friendly and collegial and relaxed, and I can really explain the work to you in a motherly fashion. Try it out. So, the mom and the girl are talking. In frame 5, the mom is clutching at her heart. What does a woman do when they're clutching at their heart? Aww. Their body language when they're clutching at their heart shows us that they're being genuine or sincere. They're feeling something very deeply. And then in frame 6, she puts her hand on her mouth. So she's thinking about whatever she's feeling very deeply. Frames 7 to 10, if we look at character interaction, we've got the stereotypical dad this time, sitting on the couch reading the newspaper. So the girl goes to dad for advice. Dad takes her by the shoulder, which again shows us that he's being very sincere, and he talks to her about something. And she just turns around and walks away. Look at how her ponytail's standing out in the background with the speed at which she's walking away. Do you see all these visual clues I look at, guys? I'm trying to work out what's going on here. When I've worked out that, okay, this girl got letters with her friend, he was happy, she was shocked, she went to mom and dad for advice, I know the gist of this cartoon. I'm familiar with all the verbal clues and the stereotypes. Now I go to the juicy part of the onion and I read the verbal clues. I actually look at the words and I start trying to investigate punctuation, figures of speech, size of the writing, all those kinds of things we've been looking at since grade 9. So frame 1 says, gosh, Elizabeth, altogether you've got 27 Valentines. Wow, this girl must be popular, hey? 27 Valentines. So the boy's quite impressed. In frame 2, we look at the girl's words. Is that all? Special punctuation mark, a question mark. Now you've got to ask yourself, why is she asking a question? Well, it's a rhetorical question, okay? It's an unexpected question, and we think that the answer is obvious. If you scored 150 runs at the cricket match and I say, is that all? How are you going to react? You're going to be shocked. You're going to be aghast. You're going to be quite curious about me saying, is that all? Implying that that's a lot of runs. So she has a lot of Valentines, but she wanted more. Okay? She believes she should have gotten more. And we'll speak about that word gotten later. In frame 3, she goes off to her mom. Mom, why do they always show love with a heart? Why not with something else? Mom replies, you mean like a liver or a spleen? Uh-huh. Now, what are we talking about there, guys? Are we talking about a literal heart, like the emoji thing, or the more figurative heart, the body part? Well, yeah, we're talking about a heart, the body part. And then mom's response is a little tongue-in-cheek, I suppose. Why do we associate the heart with love, not the liver or the spleen? Now, is it getting obvious to you that this is a poem about love and romance? I hope that it is. I hope that you know what matters of the heart means. In frame 5, Mom says, well, maybe it's because when you love someone, you feel it right here. And she points to her heart. So Mom is being quite romantic there. She's talking about the fact that maybe love has to do with feelings. All right? And that word maybe is not a definitive word. So this is Mom's opinion. It's Mom's guess at the answer. In frame 6, she says, and when that someone is far away, that feeling becomes sort of a deep ache. So you all know the idea that we become heart sore when the person we love is far away, and that it might feel physically sore because figuratively we're missing the person, right? So the words here are very dense. There's a metaphor around this concept of the heart, and we're really being genuine. In frame 7, girl pops off to dad. Dad says, well, what were you and Mom discussing so seriously? And the girl says, she was telling me about love. Dad gets really into the conversation in frame 9. He puts his hand on his daughter's shoulder, and it shows that he's sincere. It shows that he's interested in the response. And he says, and what does your mom say about love? Guys, are moms and dads supposed to love each other romantically? Ew, I know it's gross, but moms and dads are supposed to love each other romantically. So do you see how we're building up an idea here? What dad wants to know, what does mom say about love? And as the girl is walking away, now walking away from a conversation means you're having the last say. You're sort of dropping the mic, you're dropping a bomb, you're saying something impactful. And as she walks away, the girl says, she says it's a pain. Or. Dad has just been dissed, right? Dad has just been told that his wife thinks that love is a pain. Do you see that the figure of speech there is an anticlimax, guys? We were building up and building up and building up this idea related to love. The atmosphere was getting more and more cute. Valentine's Day, holding our hands on our chest. What does your mom say about love? Love is a pain. It's an anticlimax. That build-up of ideas has a sudden drop in ideas. Now note, guys, that your trial paper contained aspects of anticlimax as well, so it's really important that you study that figure of speech. I also want to mention that some of you might have thought that it's ambiguous. You might have thought, well, okay, this is funny because the mom was talking about heartache, like the ideas that love can hurt us because we miss someone so much. But now the girl is twisting her words and she's taking it that love actually makes you sore. It's not just about missing someone, it's a pain, it's a nuisance. So you could discuss ambiguity and the fact that mom's heartache was cute because you miss someone, but it's funny now because the girl has twisted that heartache and she said that, Dad, you're a pain or a nuisance. If you could discuss that to me in your own words for the right question, you would get credit for it. So guys, I've taken 10 minutes to analyze this cartoon. And you might be thinking, well, how on earth am I supposed to do this in the exam? Because now I'm wasting my time, and ma'am is wasting my time. I want to go enjoy my holiday, and she's making this long-winded video. Well, the thing is, guys, that analysis is so important, and the more we do it, the faster it's going to be. I've taken 10 minutes to explain it to you, but because I've done this a million times in my life, I could have analyzed it in 3 minutes. How are you going to get to the point where you can do the analysis in 3 to 5 minutes? You're going to do past papers. Okay, please do past papers, gents. Then you learn to analyze for 5 minutes and then write down your answers. And the thing is that we're so much more in tune to writing down the correct answer and analyzing the question really fast when we've actually analyzed the text already and we know exactly what's going on right here in the cartoon. All right, 4.1. Refer to frame 2. So here I've made frame 2 a little bit bigger for us, where Elizabeth says, "Is that all?" What does Elizabeth's response, "Is that all?" reveal about her feelings? Okay, we've discussed this already. It means that she thinks she should have got more Valentine's cards. She thinks she deserves more suitors, right? But now just look at the question, guys. The question requires us to discuss it in terms of feelings, and that is a buzzword. That is the really easy buzzword for tone, okay? So if you don't think that I gave you enough sweets, how do you feel if you say, "Ma'am, is that all?" You feel disappointed. You feel unimpressed. You feel dissatisfied. Those are all fancy words to show that you feel sad in a way of wanting more, in a way of you don't have enough. So she's disappointed, unimpressed, or dissatisfied. Do you see that to get my mark? Yes, I can talk about the fact that she expected more letters, but then I have to tell what the feeling related to more letters is, and that is one of disappointment or unimpressed or dissatisfied. 4.1.2. Suggest why Elizabeth's friend does not respond to her question. Does not respond to her question. All right? So let's just look at the question word here, suggest. That means that you have to tell me what you think. If I say, suggest why this lesson is boring, then you're going to tell me that you think I don't change my voice enough, or I don't look cool in the pictures, or my slides are boring, right? So suggest what you think about why Elizabeth's friend is not responding to her question. Now, guys, I know it says, what do you think? But we're being given a question about a cartoon, and there's a context. And the context that we've been given is frame 2. So look at this boy. He was happy in frame 1, and now he looks shocked or sad. He doesn't even say anything. Why doesn't he say anything? This is one case where shocked could actually have earned you a mark. So well done for that, Cho-Cho. The boy is shocked or dumbfounded or surprised by Elizabeth's statement. Why is he surprised by Elizabeth's statement? Because he thinks that she has a lot of fans. So do you see, I say he thinks she has a lot of fans, that's why he's keeping quiet, and I say that it shows me. Now, what do I think of that? What's my judgment, my suggestion about the fact that he thinks she got a lot of letters? My judgment is that he's shocked that she's being ungrateful for all these boyfriends. Maybe he'd want that many girlfriends. And so after I say that he's keeping quiet because he's shocked, I explain why for my second mark. He's keeping quiet and he's shocked because he thinks that she should be happy or grateful for the number of boys who have a crush on her. Do you see how I explain, guys? Because it's for 2 marks. All right, gents, I'm moving on to 4.2 and we're 30 minutes in. If this is becoming overwhelming for you, just focus on the parts that you do understand. Focus on listening out for the answers. However, if you're really pushing yourself, I mentioned earlier in the lesson that after we have looked at our cartoon and we've peeled the onion, after that we should do question analysis. All right? Now, if you want to know how to do question analysis, here you can listen a little more carefully. All right. So, when we look at a question in any question paper for any subject, there are 3 parts to the question. All right? Part number 1 is the question word. Part number 2 is the focus area. And part number 3 is the special instructions. And if we can break down these different parts of a question, it's really, really helpful in terms of helping us understand what the marker wants from us and where we can earn our marks. Okay, so let's look at the question word in this question 4.2. Discuss how the visual cue in either frame 5 or frame 6 conveys the mother's attitude towards love. So the question word is discuss, all right? And that question word discuss means 2 things. The first thing is that they want you to focus on facts, right? Because when I tell you to discuss why the sky is blue, you're not going to give me an opinion. You're going to give me a substantiated fact. And the second thing is you're going to give me detail. You need like 2 or 3 sentences. If I just wanted one word, I would say identify the color of the sky and you'd say blue. But now when I said discuss why the sky is blue, I'm expecting a detailed explanation of the facts. So that's what the question word tells you. How much must I write? And am I giving facts or am I giving my opinion? And in this case, we're working off facts from the cartoon. Now the focus area. Now guys, the focus area is kind of like the buzzword. It's the verbs or the nouns. It's the main concept in the question, the concept that you would have seen in your notes when you were studying, or the concept that the cartoon is about. Think of it in terms of the theme of the cartoon or the main message of the cartoon. So at matric level, your question's usually going to have 2 focus areas. The first focus area in this question comes from our notes. And that focus area is that they want you to look at the visual cue. Okay? What does a visual cue mean? It means something in the picture. It means a symbol or a facial expression or a piece of body language. The picture, right? And then the second thing has got to do with the main message in the cartoon itself, all right? And the main message in this cartoon itself that they want us to focus on in this question is the mother's attitude towards love. And when we see this idea of the mother's attitude towards love, we think, yes, score, because we already know what the mother's attitude towards love is. She's feeling romantic. She's feeling sentimental. She's got her hands on her chest. She thinks that love is a cute thing and that when we don't have our loved ones around us, we miss them. Okay, so we already know her attitude towards love. We've already got attitude words. I'm already answering the question literally, okay, because I've analyzed the ad. But now please, gents, do not ever forget the third aspect of question analysis. The third aspect of question analysis is the special instructions. Every question has special instructions. And in this question, the special instructions say that you need to look at frame 5 or frame 6. And you're lucky there. Sometimes they make it for 3 marks and then they tell you and frame 6, but they said question 5 or frame 5 or frame 6. Okay? So now, many of you at this point start discussing the whole cartoon and everything about the cartoon, and now the marker has to scratch for marks and they're not going to do it. Go to frame 5 or 6, whichever one you understood faster. I understood frame 5 faster, so I'm going to go to frame 5. I'm going to discuss a visual cue, and I'm going to discuss the mother's attitude towards the love, and Bob's your uncle, I've got both my marks. So, what is the visual cue I want to discuss in this frame? The fact that the mother has her hands on her chest or on her heart shows something. So the fact that her mother has her hands on her chest or on her heart is my visual cue. It shows something. What does it show? It shows that she has a romantic or whimsical or reflective attitude towards love. She thinks love is cute. Do you hear I used attitude words? And if you look at my attitude words like whimsical and romantic, I didn't get them out of the air. I studied them from my positive tone words list. So my first mark is for discussing her hands on her chest, okay? And the fact that this shows she's feeling sincere about something. And my second mark is to show that her attitude is romantic or whimsical, that she thinks love is great, that she really cares about it. There are my 2 marks. If you looked at frame 6, gents, you could have discussed the fact that she's got her hand on her chin, which shows that she's thinking deeply about something, and she's staring into the distance, which shows again that she's feeling romantic or whimsical or in love about this concept of love. She's fascinated by the concept. It warms her heart. Any of those sorts of synonyms. Okay, gents, I've literally had to pause and take my jersey off because I'm teaching so hard. If you've been concentrating really hard and you're feeling a little stale, but you want to push it further, you want to get more than 4 out of 10, then I'd suggest you take a quick walk, listen to one song, dance it out, take a 5-minute break, have a snack, and then get back to the video. So for 4.3, I'm quickly going to discuss literary devices. Guys, I want to remind you that it's so important for English Home Language, paper 1, 2, and 3, that you're comfortable with figures of speech. They're also called literary devices. They're also called poetic techniques. I've sent you the notes this morning. It's so, so important that you go and study this cheat sheet that I've highlighted here in the corner of my screen. Having an awareness of these figures of speech is literally worth marks in all 3 papers. Paper 1, you identify them in questions 1, 3, and 4. Paper 2, you identify them in the poetry and in the contextuals. Think of dramatic irony. And in paper 3, you actually create them in your writing. So it's so important to have a theoretical awareness of figures of speech. I'll be done by the time we've done 45 minutes today. And then I'll encourage you to spend your last 15 minutes to get to that hour going through your figures of speech cheat sheet. Okay, so it's really important, guys, to have an awareness of literary devices because they give language so much more meaning, and they're where we start picking up our higher order marks within an exam. You would have noticed when I peeled the onion for you that I already told you and I've already discovered that there are elements of anticlimax and ambiguity. Sorry, I have to think sometimes too. Anticlimax and ambiguity in this cartoon. Sometimes, if you're lucky, there'll be 1 mark for just simply identifying the figure of speech. I'm sure you noticed for the poetry in trials that happens a lot. So you should be able to identify figures of speech, but sometimes just having an awareness of the definition can help you discuss something like why a cartoon is funny, all right? And so it's so important to learn your literary devices. In this particular cartoon, they didn't ask you to identify the literary device, but they asked you to explain the humor. And so essentially it's the same thing, right? Because they have, you need to discuss why something is impactful. Figures of speech are used to make things impactful, to educate, or to make people laugh. So let's jump straight into the question. Refer to frames 9 and 10. Special instruction, don't leave it out. You are looking for your answer over here. Even go and circle them if you need to, so that you don't go off track. All right? And then within lines frames 9 and 10, critically discuss. What does that question word mean? Discuss means we're giving facts and detail, but critically means judge this cartoon. Talk to me about the facts they want you to discuss and then judge them, all right? And that's the fun part, right? Judging people is fun. Have you seen those YouTube videos where they rate celebrities? It's fun. Judging the cartoon is the fun part, all right? Now, what's the focus area after we've got the question word? They're wanting us to look at the interaction, and interaction is our buzzword. It means character relationship, okay? The interaction between the father and the daughter and how it creates humor in this cartoon, okay? So we're looking at the relationship between the father and the daughter in the cartoon and how it is funny. Bonus, guys, we've already worked this out when we peeled the onion. The fact is that the father is being genuine and he thinks his daughter is going to share something life-changing about what his wife thinks about love, maybe even what his wife thinks about him. And instead, his daughter is anticlimactic. She drops a bomb on him and she tells him that she thinks that mom thinks love is irritating. Mom thinks love is a pain. Do you see I've discussed the interaction? Dad is being sincere. Daughter is being anticlimactic, right? She's walking away from him. If you said she's walking away from him, that might also be worth credit. What's the last thing I have to do to earn my third mark? I have to judge it. I have to be critical about it. And how do they want me to be critical? They want me to discuss humor, whether it's funny or not. Gents, I know English is a very dry language, and it's not everyone's cup of tea. If they tell you to discuss the humor, you've got to try and think why it could be funny, all right? Please, just think like an old goggle like me. Why could it be funny? Well, it could be funny because the dad thinks that he's going to hear something sweet about his wife, but instead he hears that he is a nuisance. It's the opposite of what he expected. It makes us laugh. Okay. Do you see how I've tried to put it into really easy words? So I give my judgment, I give the interaction between father and daughter, and then I give a little bit more information. I discuss the cartoon so that I make sure I've got 3 marks. Okay. So the cartoon is funny because the dad is being sincere when he puts his hand on his daughter's shoulder. He thinks he's going to find out something life-changing about his wife's love. But the daughter is anticlimactic and she actually tells dad that he is a nuisance or a problem for mom, that she causes mom pain, and so she is letting him down. She's making fun of him. She's mocking him. Anything along those lines to provide your judgment. Try and sew your answer together. If you're not sure if your answer's worth 3 marks or not, send me a picture on WhatsApp and I'll assess it for you. You can breathe. The hardest part is over. I have 3 minutes teaching time left and we're going to talk about some low-hanging fruit. Yesterday I told you that low-hanging fruit refers to questions that are easy for us to answer. In the visual literacy, there's a new trend that 2 of the marks are about language. And so if you studied for question 5 yesterday, then these questions in the visual literacy section are now for you. And the reason these 2 particular questions were low-hanging fruit is actually because they went right back to basics. Things that your teachers teach you when they teach creative writing, and things that your grade 4 or even grade 2 and 3 teachers taught you. But you might not know the jargon. So I promise you to 4.5 you know the answer. It's just that you might not know the jargon, and today I'm going to teach you the jargon. All right, so 4.4 says, replace got with a more suitable verb in context. And those of you who've ever done a creative writing lesson with me are smiling all the way to the bank here. You know I hate the word got. It's informal language. It's the way we speak here in the Eastern Cape when we're being colloquial, and it's not standard English at all. And I always tell you in your creative writing, if you see yourself writing the word got, you've immediately have to go and cross it out and write down a fancier word. And the fancier word for got is usually received. I got a prize, I received a prize. And in this context, the word received does work, but you could also have said obtained or were given or were sent. Okay, as long as it's a verb, a doing word. The memo accepted, were given, and were sent, but I don't think they're very safe because they're not one word, they're two words. So there's a little exception that was made there. Rather go with received or obtained. Okay. So, Mrs. Charasika nagging about got sometimes reaps rewards. 4.5. Provide the comparative form of seriously. Most of you probably don't know what the comparative form is, and today you are going to learn the jargon. Just like yesterday you learned the jargon around omission and contraction and compound word. Go back and revise those things if you've forgotten them. All right, so when you were little, your teacher taught you that your work is tricky, but the grade 2's work is trickier, and the grade 3's work is the trickiest. Do you remember that? And then we got to words that couldn't take the ER or the EST, the I, trickier, the ER or the EST at the end. And you got words like, that girl is so beautiful. No, my girlfriend is more beautiful, but Sipo's girlfriend is the most beautiful. Do you remember those? They were called degrees of comparison. You had the positive form or the adjective itself, and then you had the comparative form, and then you had the superlative form. So the comparative is the second degree of comparison. It's where you're talking about two things. So I take my work seriously, but Mr. Ndoe takes his work more seriously. And there's your answer to 4.5. The comparative form of seriously is the second degree of comparison. I can't say seriously here, so what do we do when we can't add a suffix, some sound at the end? We add the word more at the beginning. The comparative form of seriously is more seriously. The superlative form, what your grade 3 teacher called the third degree of comparison, would be most seriously. There you go, guys. Revised degrees of comparison. Know what an adjective is. Know your jargon. The positive form of the adjective or the adverb is just the word itself. The comparative form is when we're comparing two things with the ER at the end or the word more at the beginning. And the superlative form is where we're comparing more than two things, and so it's the EST at the end or the most. Don't tell me you are dead, deader, deadest at the end of this lesson, hey? Dead does not have a comparative or a superlative form. There's only one way of being dead. Don't die now. Go and study.